In the turbulent skies over China, amidst the chaos of World War II, a group of American volunteers dared to defy the odds. They were not just pilots, they were symbols of hope, courage, and the unyielding spirit of freedom. This is the story of the Flying Tigers, the legendary first American volunteer group, and their indelible mark on history. Before America entered the war, these bold aviators crossed oceans and continents, drawn by a call to defend a distant land against an overwhelming adversary. Under the leadership of the visionary Claire Lee Chennault, they became a beacon of light during some of the darkest days. Join us as we journey back to the early 1940s to uncover the origins, the battles, and the legacy of the Flying Tigers. From dogfights in the skies of Burma and China to their lasting impact on aerial combat, this is a tale of bravery, strategy, and the enduring bonds forged in the fires of war. Welcome to the saga of the Flying Tigers, where every dive and turn tells a story of heroism that reshaped the skies and brought hope to a beleaguered world. The formation of the Flying Tigers. In the late 1930s, the world watched as aggression and war engulfed Asia and Europe. Yet in the United States, a bold plan was taking shape, one that would see American aviators flying for China against the Japanese invaders. The mastermind behind this plan was Claire Lee Chennault, a retired U.S. Army Air Corps officer known for his tactical brilliance and deep knowledge of air combat. Chennault, having witnessed firsthand the air battles over China, knew that the Chinese forces desperately needed skilled pilots to challenge the Japanese air superiority. The call for volunteers was met with enthusiasm, drawing pilots from the U.S. Army Air Corps, Navy, and Marine Corps. These men were driven not by the promise of wealth, but by the adventure and the chance to make a difference in the world. They would soon form the first American volunteer group, or as history remembers them, the Flying Tigers. Training began in Burma, away from prying eyes. Here, Chennault imparted his knowledge, focusing on tactics that leveraged the strengths of the P-40 Warhawk against the more maneuverable Japanese aircraft. The pilots learned to hit hard and fast, then disappear into the skies. It was a grueling regime, but from it emerged a cohesive and formidable fighting force, ready to take on the might of the Japanese Empire. As 1941 drew to a close, the Flying Tigers were poised for combat. Little did they know, their actions would soon turn them into legends, giving hope to an Allied force beleaguered by constant setbacks. The stage was set for a chapter in aviation history unlike any other: training and tactics. The Flying Tigers' journey from novices to masters of the sky was rooted in a rigorous training program unlike any other. Under the scorching sun of Burma, Chennault's pilots were introduced to a new form of air warfare, one that emphasized agility, surprise, and precision. The heart of this training was the art of the surprise attack, using the P-40's superior diving ability to strike the enemy and evade before they could react. Chennault taught his pilots to avoid traditional dogfights. Instead, they practiced diving attacks, leveraging the P-40 Warhawk's strengths against the Japanese aircraft's weaknesses. This tactic required not just skill and bravery, but also an unshakable trust in one another. The pilots learned to work as a team, covering each other's backs and creating a formidable force in the skies. This period was also a time of adaptation and innovation. The pilots and their ground crews worked tirelessly to modify their aircraft, improving their performance and reliability in combat conditions. Every bolt tightened, every engine tuned, and every gun calibrated contributed to their readiness for the battles ahead. As the training progressed, the pilots of the Flying Tigers transformed. They became not just fighters, but guardians of the skies over China. They were ready to face an experienced and confident enemy, armed with tactics that would rewrite the rules of aerial combat. The culmination of this training was a doctrine that emphasized speed, surprise, and teamwork. It was a doctrine that would soon be put to the test as the Flying Tigers entered combat. Their innovative tactics and unyielding spirit would soon make them legends, proving that even in the darkest times, a small group of determined individuals could make a difference. First, combat and early successes. The story of the Flying Tigers reached a pivotal chapter on December 20th, 1941, just days after Pearl Harbor plunged the United States into World War II. As the world reeled from the news of the attack, the Flying Tigers were about to face their first real test in the skies over Kunming, China. With the Japanese Air Force aiming to extend their dominion, the stage was set for an aerial confrontation that would mark the beginning of the Flying Tigers legend. Armed with Chennault's tactics and their rigorous training, the pilots took to their P-40 Warhawks with a determination to make their first strike count. The Japanese, confident in their superiority, were caught off guard by the ferocity and skill of the American volunteers. The Flying Tigers' initial engagement was a resounding success, downing multiple Japanese aircraft with minimal losses. This victory was more than just a military success. It was a beacon of hope in a time of widespread despair. News of their triumph spread, boosting the morale of Allied forces and populations alike. In the weeks and months that followed, the Flying Tigers continued to defy expectations. They employed hit-and-run tactics, ambushing Japanese formations, and then disappearing into the vastness of the Chinese landscape. Each victory added to their mystique as they became not just soldiers in a foreign war, but symbols of resistance against tyranny. Their successes were not without cost, but for every pilot lost, another stepped up, driven by the same unquenchable spirit of adventure and justice. The Flying Tigers' early engagements showcased their skill, bravery, and the effectiveness of their unconventional tactics. They had proven that a well-prepared and strategically minded force, no matter how small, could make a significant impact on the larger conflict. As the legend of the Flying Tigers grew, so did their influence. They were not just fighting for China or against the Japanese. They were fighting for the very principles of freedom and courage. Their early successes laid the groundwork for future operations and set a standard for aerial combat that resonated throughout the war. Challenges and adaptations. As the Flying Tigers continued their campaign against the Japanese forces, they encountered numerous challenges that tested their resolve and ingenuity. The harsh conditions of the Chinese landscape, coupled with the logistical nightmare of supplying a foreign air squadron, often left the pilots and their ground crews scrambling for parts, fuel, and ammunition. The P-40 Warhawks, although sturdy and reliable, required constant maintenance to stay combat-ready, a task made all the more difficult by the remote and often improvised airfields from which they operated. One of the most significant hurdles was the sheer number of enemy aircraft they faced. The Japanese Air Force, with its well-trained pilots and superior numbers, was a formidable opponent. The Flying Tigers had to constantly adapt their tactics and strategies to counter new threats and exploit any weakness in their adversary. This relentless pursuit of tactical innovation kept the Japanese forces off balance and allowed the Flying Tigers to achieve victories against seemingly overwhelming odds. Adaptation was not limited to the battlefield. The group had to navigate the complexities of serving under the Chinese government while maintaining their status as American volunteers. This delicate balancing act required diplomatic skill and a deep respect for the cultures and political realities of their allies. The camaraderie and mutual respect among the pilots and their Chinese counterparts grew stronger with each challenge they overcame together. This bond was not just based on shared combat experiences, but on the mutual effort to improve conditions for everyone involved. The Flying Tigers worked alongside Chinese engineers and laborers to build and repair runways, sharing their knowledge and learning in turn. Despite these obstacles, the spirit of the Flying Tigers never waned. Their ability to adapt, both in the air and on the ground, became one of their greatest strengths. Each challenge was met with determination and a resourcefulness that exemplified the very essence of the group. Their success in the face of adversity not only cemented their place in history, but also proved the power of innovation, teamwork, and the unyielding human spirit. As the Flying Tigers' story unfolded, their legacy of resilience and adaptability continued to inspire not only those who fought alongside them, but future generations of pilots and soldiers. Their journey is a testament to the fact that with courage and ingenuity, even the smallest force can make a profound impact on the course of history. Legacy and disbandment. The legacy of the Flying Tigers extends far beyond their combat achievements in the skies of China and Burma. As the group approached its official disbandment on July 4, 1942, their impact on the war and aerial combat was undeniable. They had not only proven the effectiveness of their innovative tactics, but also inspired a sense of unity and determination among the Allied forces. The transition from the American Volunteer Group to the official incorporation into the United States Army Air Forces marked the end of an extraordinary chapter in military history. Many of the pilots chose to continue fighting, joining new units and bringing with them the experience and tactics that had made the Flying Tigers so successful. Their legacy was carried forward in the 23rd Fighter Group, which continued to operate in China and build on the foundation laid by Chennault and his volunteers. The disbandment of the Flying Tigers did not mean the end of their story. Instead, it marked the beginning of a legend that would grow with each passing year. The group's achievements became a symbol of American ingenuity and bravery, celebrated in films, books, and articles. Their innovative tactics, particularly their use of the dive bomb attack and team-based combat, influenced air forces around the world. Beyond their military contributions, the Flying Tigers left a lasting impact on Sino-American relations. Their service under the Chinese flag and their close cooperation with Chinese forces during a critical period of the Second Sino-Japanese War fostered a bond between the two nations that would endure long after the war's end. Today, the Flying Tigers are remembered not only for their combat prowess, but for their spirit of adventure and commitment to a cause greater than themselves. Museums, memorials, and educational programs continue to honor their contributions, ensuring that the legacy of the Flying Tigers will inspire future generations. The story of the Flying Tigers is a testament to the power of courage, innovation, and the unbreakable will to fight against overwhelming odds. As we reflect on the legacy of the Flying Tigers, we are reminded of the enduring values they represented: bravery, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of freedom and justice. Their story continues to resonate, a beacon of hope and resilience in the face of adversity. Before you take off from this journey through history, make sure to navigate your way to the subscribe button below. Join us at Real Sky Stories, where the past meets the present in the vast expanse of the skies. Don't just be a viewer, become a part of our squadron, exploring untold tales of bravery, innovation, and the spirit of aviation. Have a story or a hero you think deserves to be in the spotlight? Drop us a comment down below. We're always on the lookout for the next incredible tale to share. And remember, by liking this video and sharing it with fellow aviation enthusiasts, you help keep the legacy of heroes like the Flying Tigers alive for generations to come. Stay tuned, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff into more Real Sky Stories. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and never stop reaching for the stars.